Listen, life is going to hit you hard. It will knock you down, strip away your pride, and leave you staring at the ceiling wondering if you've got anything left inside you. But here's the truth. Every time you get knocked down, you're being tested. Tested to see if you'll stay there or if you'll rise. And when you rise, you don't rise the same. You rise tougher. You rise sharper. You rise stronger. Pain forges you. Struggle builds you. Failure shapes you. And when the world expects you to stay broken, you stand, not as the person you were before, but as something greater. This is not about avoiding the fight. It's about embracing it. It's about using every setback as fuel. It's about refusing to quit, refusing to break, refusing to accept defeat. Because when you rise up, you don't just get back up. You rise up stronger. Adversity is not something to run from. It's not something to fear. It is the very ground where strength is forged, where toughness is built, where character is tested and defined. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid the difficult, the uncomfortable, the painful. They want the smooth road, the easy path, the shortcut that takes them around the storm. But the truth is, there is no shortcut. There is no easy path. The storm is the path, the fire is the teacher, the struggle is the training ground. Without it, you never know what you're capable of. You never unlock that second gear. You never discover the depth of your own will. Think back on every great moment of growth in your life. Every time you leveled up, every time you broke through a barrier. Did it come when everything was perfect, when you were comfortable, when life handed you exactly what you wanted? No. It came when you were pressed, when you were pushed, when you were knocked down and had to claw your way back up. That's when you grew. That's when you learned. That's when you hardened your mind and your body against the resistance of life. Adversity is not punishment, it is preparation. It is not the end of the road, it is the sharpening stone that makes you ready for the battles ahead. The battlefield of adversity strips away the illusion of who you think you are and reveals who you really are. When the plan falls apart, when the pressure rises, when nothing goes the way you expected, that's when the mask comes off. That's when your true grit is exposed. Some people crumble under the weight. Some people give in to fear. Some people quit. But for the few who choose to endure, who choose to fight, who choose to push through the suffering, something powerful happens. They emerge from the fire harder, sharper, more resilient than they were before. They learn to bend but not break, to bleed but not stop, to fall but always rise again. Adversity forces you to confront your weakness, and that's exactly why it is your training ground. It exposes the gaps in your armor. It highlights the areas you've neglected. It calls out your lack of preparation. It doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't care about your excuses. Adversity tells you the truth about yourself. And once you face that truth, you have a choice: hide from it or fix it. The strong choose to fix it. The strong choose to work harder, to train longer, to discipline themselves so that the next time adversity comes, they are ready. That is how growth happens. That is how warriors are made. Every rep in the gym tears the muscle so it can grow stronger. Every mile on the road breaks you down so you can build endurance. Every challenge in life works the same way. You can't build toughness in a vacuum. You can't grow resilience when everything is comfortable. Comfort breeds weakness. Adversity breeds strength. And if you want to rise up stronger, you have to stop running from adversity and start running toward it. You have to see the hard times not as obstacles, but as opportunities. Opportunities to sharpen your skills, to deepen your discipline, to harden your will. The world will never stop throwing problems at you, setbacks at you, failures at you. That's guaranteed. You don't control the adversity, but you do control your response. You can choose to collapse, or you can choose to use it. You can choose to see adversity as the enemy, or you can choose to see it as your greatest ally. Because every time you go through it, you come out better. Every time you face it, you level up. Every time you refuse to quit in the face of it, you gain power over yourself. That is why adversity is not something to dread. It is the ultimate training ground, the crucible that transforms ordinary people into warriors, the furnace that forges unbreakable willpower, the arena where discipline Courage and resilience are built piece by piece through pain, struggle, and relentless effort. Pain is a reality. It is part of life, part of growth, part of every single step toward becoming more than what you are today. Pain shows up in many forms: failure, rejection, loss, exhaustion, the grind that never seems to end. Most people try to escape it, numb it, run from it. They treat pain like the enemy. But the truth is, pain is neutral. Pain is raw energy, and what you do with that energy determines who you become. Discipline is the tool that takes pain and transforms it into power. Without discipline, pain crushes you, it breaks you down, it makes you weaker. With discipline, pain becomes fuel, it becomes strength, it becomes the very thing that carries you beyond the limits you thought you had. Discipline is the bridge between suffering and strength. When you choose discipline, you make a decision to endure the pain instead of avoiding it. You learn to stay in the fight when everything in you is screaming to quit. You learn to push through the fatigue, the frustration, the doubt. And every time you do, you build a little more power inside yourself. The weights in the gym never get lighter. The miles on the road never get shorter. The grind of life never gets easier. But with discipline, you get stronger. You learn to embrace the burn in your muscles, the sting of sweat in your eyes, the fatigue in your body. You reframe it in your mind. This isn't punishment. This is progress. This is what growth feels like. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Discipline is what turns that choice into something meaningful. Anyone can complain about how hard things are. Anyone can stop when it hurts. Anyone can make excuses. But the disciplined person takes that same hurt and uses it. They let the pain carve them into someone sharper, someone more resilient, someone capable of carrying more than before. Pain becomes information. Pain becomes feedback. It tells you where you are weak, where you need to improve, where you need to grow. Discipline listens to that feedback and acts on it. Discipline doesn't let the pain go to waste. It squeezes every ounce of strength, every lesson, every ounce of power out of it. Think about the greatest athletes, the most successful leaders, the warriors who stood in the face of impossible odds. Do you think they got there without pain? No, they got there because they chose to endure it, to live with it, to embrace it daily through disciplined effort. They woke up when they didn't want to. They trained when their bodies begged for rest. They stayed focused when distractions called out for their attention. That discipline turned every ache, every setback, every failure into a stepping stone toward greatness. Without pain, their discipline would have had nothing to mold. Without discipline, their pain would have been wasted. The combination of the two is what forged their power. Discipline turns pain into progress by giving it structure. When you wake up early every morning, when you push yourself past your comfort zone, when you stick to the plan, no matter how you feel, you are harnessing pain. You are choosing to suffer on your own terms instead of being broken on someone else's. That choice is power. You decide when and how you will face pain, and through repetition, through consistency, through commitment, you train your mind and body to handle more than you thought possible. Pain teaches humility. Discipline teaches control. Together, they create strength. And when you realize that the pain you're feeling is not a signal to stop, but a signal to grow, you unlock something few ever do. You stop fearing pain and start seeking it because you know every ounce of pain that passes through the filter of discipline comes out the other side as power. You know that every disciplined action taken in the face of pain builds unshakable confidence. And that confidence, built day by day through disciplined response to pain, becomes the power that carries you through battles others could never survive. Failure is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life. People see it as an ending, as proof that they weren't good enough, as the signal to stop. But failure is not the finish line. It is the beginning of something new. It is the spark, the fuel, the necessary ingredient for growth and achievement. Every great success story is littered with failure. Every breakthrough is built on a foundation of setbacks. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process, the raw material that shapes you into someone capable of reaching higher levels. When you shift your perspective on failure, when you stop seeing it as defeat and start seeing it as fuel, you take away its power to control you and instead use it to drive you forward. Failure is feedback. It strips away illusions and shows you the truth about where you are. It highlights your weaknesses, exposes your blind spots, and demands that you improve. Without failure, you can live in the comfort of thinking you're ready, thinking you've done enough, thinking you've mastered the challenge. But failure humbles you. It puts you face to face with the gap between who you are and who you need to be. That gap can either break you or it can ignite you. With the right mindset, failure becomes a teacher more valuable than any success. Success can trick you into complacency. Failure forces you to evolve. The reality is that the road to success is paved with failures. Every entrepreneur who built a lasting business, every athlete who reached the pinnacle of their sport, every leader who inspired nations, they all failed. They failed repeatedly. They failed publicly. They failed in ways that could have crushed them forever. But what set them apart was their response. They didn't treat failure as the finish line. They treated it as training, as data, as energy. They absorbed the lessons, recalibrated their approach, and came back stronger. Failure was not the end of their story. It was the chapter that made the ending possible. When you adopt the mindset that failure is fuel, you start to play a different game. You stop fearing mistakes because you understand that each one is an opportunity to gather intelligence. You stop dreading setbacks because you know they are building resilience. You stop hesitating because you realize that action, even action that ends in failure, is infinitely more valuable than standing still. The person who fails 100 times is further ahead than the person who never started, because every failure moves you closer to the solution, closer to the strength, closer to the goal. Failure also hardens your will. It tests your resilience like nothing else. Anyone can keep going when everything is working, but only those who have been knocked down, humiliated, and crushed by failure know what it takes to rise again. And every time you rise after failing, you rise with more grit, more clarity, more determination than before. That repetition of falling and rising is what builds mental toughness. It ingrains in you the belief that nothing can break you permanently, that no setback can define you unless you allow it to. The most dangerous thing about failure is not the event itself, but the story you tell yourself afterward. If you see it as the finish line, you stop. You quit. You never tap into the potential that was waiting for you. But if you see it as fuel, you ignite. You take that pain, that disappointment, that embarrassment, and you channel it into relentless forward motion. You burn it as energy to push harder, to train longer, to focus sharper, to fight with more intensity than before. Failure is unavoidable. It will happen to everyone. The question is not whether you will fail, but what you will do with it when you do. Will you stop and let it bury you, or will you use it to propel yourself forward with more strength, more knowledge, and more determination than you had before? That choice is where growth lies. That choice is where strength is built. That choice is the difference between those who stay down and those who rise to greatness. Life is full of chaos, full of uncertainty, full of things you will never be able to control. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions, the circumstances you're thrown into, none of that is in your hands. Too many people waste their lives trying to change what they cannot change, complaining about what they cannot fix, and blaming what is outside of them for why they aren't where they want to be. That mindset is poison. The truth is simple: control the controllables. Focus your time, your energy, your effort on the things that are within your grasp. Your attitude, your discipline, your work ethic, your preparation, your choices, those are yours. That is where your power lies. That is where you win or lose. When you stop wasting energy on what you can't control, you gain clarity. You see the battlefield for what it is. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the commander of your own actions. You don't control how heavy the weights are, but you control whether you pick them up. You don't control how steep the hill is, but you control whether you keep climbing. You don't control the challenges life throws at you, but you control whether you face them with courage or collapse under them. The moment you take ownership of the controllables, you reclaim your power, and with ownership comes the elimination of excuses. Excuses are the lies we tell ourselves to avoid responsibility. They sound like truth in the moment. I don't have time. I'm too tired. It's not the right season. Excuses disguise themselves as reasons, but at their core, they are weakness. Every excuse you allow into your mind robs you of progress. Every excuse you repeat reinforces the idea that you are powerless. But you are not powerless, you are simply undisciplined. Excuses and discipline cannot coexist. The disciplined mind does not tolerate excuses because it understands that excuses change nothing while action changes everything. Crushing excuses requires brutal honesty with yourself. It means looking in the mirror and admitting that the reason you didn't show up wasn't because of circumstances. It was because of you. It means holding yourself accountable for every missed opportunity, every wasted day, every half-hearted effort. Accountability hurts, but it's the only way to grow. When you stop lying to yourself with excuses, you create space for truth, and truth brings change. The truth is, if it matters, you will find a way. If it doesn't, you will find an excuse. Discipline ensures that you choose the way instead of the excuse. The path to strength, to growth, to freedom is built on small controllable actions executed consistently. Waking up early, training your body, feeding your mind, managing your time, choosing your words, keeping your promises. These may seem small, but they compound. Control them and they build into unstoppable momentum. Lose control of them and they spiral into chaos. The person who wins in life isn't the one who had the best circumstances. It's the one who maximized what they could control and refused to let excuses hold them back. There will always be external forces that make your journey harder. There will always be obstacles that test your patience and strength. But none of those things decide your outcome. What decides your outcome is whether you maintain discipline in the controllables and destroy the excuses before they take root. Excuses might feel comfortable in the moment, but they are chains. They keep you stuck where you are. Crushing them is the only way to move forward. When you live by the rule of controlling what you can and refusing to accept excuses, you develop an unbreakable mindset, a mentality that doesn't fold under pressure, a spirit that refuses to surrender. That is where real power comes from, owning your controllables and annihilating your excuses until nothing is left but action, accountability, and results. When life knocks you down, when betrayal cuts deep, when circumstances break, what you thought was unbreakable, you face a choice. You can rise with resilience or you can rise with resentment. Resentment is easy. It's the default. It's the poison that seeps in when pain lingers. It whispers in your ear that life isn't fair, that people owe you, that the world is against you. Resentment feeds your anger but starves your growth. It chains you to the past, to what was done to you, to what you cannot change. It drains your energy and clouds your vision. You may think you're rising, but resentment keeps you kneeling in bitterness. Resilience is the opposite. Resilience is strength forged through struggle, clarity gained through chaos, power built through pain. Resilience doesn't ignore what happened, but it refuses to be defined by it. Resilience says, yes, I was knocked down, but I am not staying there. Yes, I was hurt, but I am not broken. Yes, I was tested, but I will use this test to sharpen my will. Resilience takes the same pain that resentment feeds on and turns it into fuel for forward motion. Resilience is active. It is the decision to stand again and again, no matter how many times you fall. The reason resilience matters more than resentment is because life will always give you reasons to be bitter. People will betray you. Opportunities will slip through your fingers. Doors will close when you thought they would open. If you carry resentment, you carry weight that was never meant to be yours. It slows you down, it blinds you to possibility, it corrodes your spirit. Resilience, however, allows you to carry lessons without carrying poison. It allows you to learn from the pain without letting the pain consume you. It allows you to rise clean, strong, focused, and ready for the next battle. Resentment thrives on blame. It keeps you pointing outward, searching for someone to fault, someone to hold accountable for where you are. But that mindset is powerless because you cannot control other people. You cannot control the past. You cannot control everything around you. Resilience shifts the focus inward. It says, I will own my response. I will take what I can control, my actions, my discipline, my mindset, and I will use them to rebuild. Resilience gives you back control, while resentment strips it away. Resilience is not denial. It does not mean pretending the pain didn't happen. It means acknowledging it, feeling it, and then choosing to grow stronger because of it. Every scar becomes a reminder not of what broke you, but of what you survived. Every setback becomes a training ground for your willpower. Every disappointment becomes proof that you can withstand more than you imagined. That is the essence of resilience. It reframes pain as preparation, not punishment. Resentment is fueled by emotion, by the immediate satisfaction of anger, by the illusion of righteousness. But it is temporary and it leaves you weaker in the long run. Resilience is fueled by discipline, by the steady choice to endure, adapt, and overcome. It is harder, it takes more strength, it requires more patience, but it leaves you unshakable. When you rise with resilience, you no longer depend on perfect circumstances or fair treatment. You no longer wait for the world to change before you move forward. You become the change. You become the force. Resilience is the quality that turns victims into victors, setbacks into setups, losses into lessons. It builds toughness, not just in the body, but in the mind and the spirit. It is what allows you to keep moving when the weight of life should have crushed you. It is what allows you to walk away from the fire not burned, but refined. Rising with resilience means refusing to let bitterness hold you hostage, refusing to let anger define your identity, refusing to let pain dictate your future. Rising with resilience is how you claim freedom from the past and power, for the future. Strength is not built in moments of comfort. It is not built when everything is going your way. It is not built when life feels easy. Strength is built in the struggle. Struggle is the resistance that forces you to grow, the friction that sharpens you, the weight that forges toughness in both body and mind. Without struggle, there is no strength, there is only stagnation. Just as muscles cannot grow without resistance, the human spirit cannot grow without trials. It is the pressure, the grind, the obstacles, the setbacks that carve out resilience and power within you. When you are in the middle of the struggle, it doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a burden. The challenges seem overwhelming, the pain feels endless, the road looks impossible. But hidden inside that struggle is the very process that is making you stronger. Every repetition of hardship conditions your mind to endure. Every failure pushes you to adapt. Every obstacle demands you rise to the occasion. Without realizing it, the struggle is shaping you into someone tougher than before, someone capable of carrying more weight, someone prepared for bigger battles. Struggle is the training ground of greatness. The strongest people you admire, the warriors, the leaders, the champions, did not get there by avoiding hardship. They got there by embracing it. They understood that the path to strength runs straight through the valley of struggle. They didn't look for shortcuts. They didn't pray for easy days. They used the hard days as fuel. They chose to see struggle not as a wall, but as a staircase. Every climb, every step, every ounce of pain was building them up, layer by layer, into someone unstoppable. The truth is that comfort weakens you. Comfort lulls you into complacency. Comfort makes you soft. Struggle, on the other hand, awakens your potential. It tests the limits you thought were permanent and proves they were only temporary. You thought you couldn't go any further, but the struggle forced you to. You thought you couldn't handle the pain, but the struggle showed you could. You thought you were finished, but the struggle revealed another gear inside you. That is how strength is built. By going beyond the limit, by doing what you didn't think was possible, by enduring what you thought would break you. Struggle also teaches perspective. When you fought through darkness, the light means more. When you've carried heavy loads, you respect the strength you gain. When you've fallen and risen, you realize that the fall was never the end, but the beginning of something greater. Struggle humbles you and hardens you at the same time. It humbles you by reminding you that you are not invincible, that life will test you without warning. It hardens you by proving that you can survive those tests, that you can endure the storm, that you can adapt to chaos. Strength built in the struggle is not just physical, it is mental, it is emotional, it is spiritual. The struggle builds discipline because you learn to keep moving when it hurts. It builds patience because you understand that growth takes time. It builds confidence because you have evidence that you can overcome what once looked impossible. These are the qualities that last. Muscles can weaken, circumstances can change, but the strength forged in the struggle becomes part of who you are. It is a foundation that no one can take away from you. Every battle, every hardship, every painful chapter you face is adding to your strength. You may not see it in the moment, but it is there, building silently beneath the surface. The weight you carry today is preparing you for the challenges of tomorrow. The nights you endure and struggle are shaping the warrior who will walk into the light. Strength is not handed to you. It is earned, it is carved, it is built in the struggle,